When it first launched, it revolutionised the acoustic guitar and how we look at it. Can it do it again? Let's check out the brand new Yamaha TAGC 3C Transacoustic. I was completely blown away when the Yamaha Transacoustic first released, just to do with what they had put into these guitars and the kind of immediate inspiration and sort of the, I guess the sort of like head scratching and jaw dropping sort of reactions to how are they doing that? One of the things, you know, when I spent some time in the store was I just picked up one of these guitars and I would just strum it for somebody and they would immediately just be taken aback. You heard a little bit of it in the intro as well, but what the kind of classic Transacoustic thing was doing was it had a reverb and it had a chorus built into it, so it would sound something like this. Which was all coming directly from the guitar. That was always the thing that I think always people were a bit puzzled by, because they thought there was some sort of trickery going on, that we had a cable running out to like an amplifier or some effects or anything like that. But as you'll see with this guitar here, I got no strings on this. This is holding, well, I do have strings. That was the rubbish little Pinocchio sort of reference that I could have in there. I got no cables on this thing. Everything's coming from inside the guitar. I'm not even going to begin to sort of like try and figure out how Yamaha have put in the wizardry into this guitar here. But what I am here to talk to you about is what they have done with this brand new iteration of this model. Now, this guitar, it comes with a few sort of new features on it, which quite frankly, I'm, you know, even more impressed with than the first time I heard a Transacoustic. So let's just jump right in and see what's new with this guitar, starting with the added effects. You may have heard it in the intro there, but I was actually using a looper that is built into this guitar, and it's all controlled with this guitar and all the sounds do come out of it. But I'll get on to how to use that and how it functions a little bit later, because the first thing I want to talk about is the brand new effect that they put into the Transacoustic, and that is you now have the option of delay with this. So this is just the guitar by itself. I've turned down all the reverb, I've turned down all the chorus. This is just the guitar and the brand new delay that we've got in here. Now, much the same as the Transacoustic that everybody knows and loves, you can control the amount that you're getting with that delay. So you'll have heard me during that just little strum there, I was kind of tweaking around with the controls on the top. And actually, this is probably a very quick opportunity just to show you the layout of the Transacoustic here. You're going to get a bit of a POV cam as well, which we're just giving you all the angles that you need to see. But this is the kind of the control center of it. You've got dials for each of your effects, and there is also secondary options as well, but that's more to do with the looper, which again, I'll touch on in just a little bit. But you basically, you have a power button just in the middle there. Because it's important, I think I'll lay that out quite early on in the video, is that the power, but like this guitar doesn't need to have those effects on all the time. It is an all solid Sitka spruce and solid mahogany back inside, so this guitar sounds awesome just by itself. But if you do want access to those effects, as simple as just pressing and holding the button in the middle, that'll then light up for the looper. Again, I'll touch on just how to control on that just a little bit, but if you want to just bring in any of the effects, all you need to do is just turn up the dial that you want to. That's what I was doing with delay at the start as well. This also doubles as a tap tempo also for your acoustic. I'm going to go into the weirdest position I've ever done for playing, but make sure the reverb's down as well. And I actually realised you need to hear that for the microphones here. So that affects the level, but I can tap that in if I want to. You almost get like a bit of a slapback thing there. Or if you want to go like super long on it as well, you can do that. Which that sounds brilliant by itself, but obviously when you start incorporating that with the reverb and the chorus as well, you just get this like just soundscape with this guitar, which I just think is such a cool thing, especially for just an exclusively acoustic instrument. Now, obviously, you can control all those individually. You know, as I mentioned there, you can just have the reverb, you can just have the chorus, you can have a mix of all three as well. But let's jump on to the other new feature, and that is the looper. And we needed a slightly different angle for this one. So we're taking a closer look at the interface here. This is where I want to show you how the loop function works. So the top three controls here, this is all to do with your effects. Now, this little handy sheet can come off as well, but I've actually found a lot of people who use Transacoustics will just keep this on, just obviously so you know exactly where you're going. But if we press the button on the knob at the bottom here, so we just push this in, you'll notice there's a little light that now activates. That means that our looper is on. Now, all the inner sort of options on this little sort of control center in the middle here, this is what all of our sort of looper controls are going to, well, this is what I'm going to tell you what's actually going to be controlled. So we have nothing in the center here. If I press that, you'll notice that there is a red light that is now flashing on the control center interface. So that means that the loop is armed. So I've got some effects going, I'm just going to play some chords and the guitar is just going to pick it up automatically by itself. And then just like that, you've got a loop. And it's still in overdub mode as well, so you can... Easy as that to get something going. And obviously you can adjust the level of it if you need to, and then all you do to stop it is press the chorus button on the right there. Now to clear it, you press and hold it, and that's us gone. Now, you may have noticed something that I did with the face of the guitar here. That's quite an important thing, especially if you're obviously going to be performing, which I'll activate another loop here and I'll show you exactly what I did. So if we were to look at the top of the guitar here, this little circle isn't just for decoration, it's actually a control for you to go between armed and playback mode when you are in a loop. So if I even just set something up pretty basic here, and I might have slightly been out of time there as well. just ever so slightly, but for the point of the demo, this still applies. So I'm still in armed mode right now. The red circle is going around here. What I can do is I can tap it just once on the circle here. You'll notice, obviously, once I put my loop in, that's how I activated it, you know, kind of going round and round. Now, I can hit it, it just goes to playback mode, and I can just jam over it if I want to. But if I do want to record something else, I don't need to hit the button that activates the loop. I can simply just hit this circle. Which is a really handy thing because it means that, you know, you're not jumping back up to the controls here, say you're playing a gig or you're actually in the middle of live looping or anything like that. It's a much shorter distance for you to just tap that, and also maybe a bit more natural for you to do that. Now, this is maybe jumping ahead ever so slightly, but there is a companion app that does come with this brand new iteration with the Transacoustic, giving you lots and lots of controls, and I'll explain all of those just in a separate portion of this video a little bit later on. But one of the important things when we're talking about that kind of little, I guess we can call it like a pressure sort of button, or even just like an area of effects, I guess, but you can control the touch sensitivity of that. So say, for example, you're quite a heavy strummer and you maybe end up like touching the face of the guitar, because I have found that it is quite active around there. It's not just in that circle. So like if, you know, you touch her anywhere kind of near it, it means that you're not continuing your loop, which is great. But you can actually adjust the touch sensitivity within the app. So that makes it really handy for some players. And obviously it's just a little bit more of a kind of natural sort of, you know, area where you would go for that. And the fact that you don't need to kind of jump up is you're just not going to be tripping over yourself, which is really handy. So just want to show you the other finish that this guitar comes in, which is obviously the one that I had in my hand was a natural finish. The one that you've maybe seen in the background here, this is called Sandburst. Really nice finish on that one. Obviously, if you want something that's just that little bit more kind of like honey coloured, this is the one for you. But actually, this is a great opportunity just to even hear this guitar just completely acoustic as well, because as I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is an all solid Yamaha Dreadnought, so this thing sounds absolutely mega just by itself. Like, check this out. So, you know, that's the thing, you don't necessarily need to use all those effects all the time, and the kind of main thing that I find with that is that the effects complement the guitar, they don't make the guitar. You know, you adding a little bit of reverb onto this, adding a little bit of chorus, adding a little bit of delay now, it's that little extra bit of creativity, it's that little extra spice that you've kind of thrown in with the mix that's just going to enhance your playing and enhance the sound rather than being the sound, which I think is the really key thing with this. Now, there's another couple of things that I would just want to touch on with this. Unlike the previous iterations of the Transacoustic that ran off of batteries, this is actually a chargeable option, which you'll get about 5.5 hours of play out of it from what I've seen from Yamaha. There is a tuner built into this one now as well, which is really, really easy to use just actually on the guitar. And that is just controlled by the top delay. When you press and hold that, it goes into a tuning mode, and it will bypass your signal actually if you're plugged in as well. So it's a good option for a mute. And there is an extra couple of bits as well that I just want to go over, but that is to do with the app. So let's get that set up. This is the companion app that I was talking about a little bit earlier in the video. Now, as I mentioned there, it's not essential to get, you know, the kind of the most out of the Transacoustic, because there is a lot of options that you can just kind of tweak with there, like the tap tempo, like the volume of each individual effect, and the looper, of course, as well. But if you really want to get kind of, you know, really into it, the app is absolutely fantastic for that as well. So we'll start with the effects here, because what you can actually do is you can adjust all the individual parameters like you would expect to see, say, on like a multi-effects like a Helix, or any sort of effects unit as well. So for example, if I turn down everything just individually, we are on the chorus here. This is the double detune chorus that it comes with, and you can notice that there's a few different sort of parameters that we can change through there. So that will sound like this. And then what I can do is I can then adjust anything just on it. You know, so this is the double detune option here. I've then put it just sense down a little bit more. A nice subtle effect there, which sounds awesome, but then we can actually change that to a 4-voice chorus as well. So it's not only just giving you the one chorus sound in here, it's giving you a couple, which again just expands all that kind of creative options that I think the Transacoustic does so well. So here is our 4-voice. Now, obviously, mixing that with a little bit of delay and reverb, you're immediately going to get into that kind of 80s sort of studio sound, which is absolutely just, it's a personal favourite of mine. Which, if we're looking onto the delay here, we're now getting a lot more options to do with actually, like, as you would expect from any sort of delay unit. So you're getting the feedback, you're getting time, and you're actually getting an EQ with it as well. But much like the chorus, there is another option you can get, which is a simple delay and an analog. Now, I've had it on analog for most of this demo, just I think that kind of warmness really helps with the acoustic itself. But of course, personal preference, you can change it to whatever you need it to be. And then when we're talking about the reverb, it comes with 3 options with a hall, a room, and a plate. And what I'll do is I'll just cycle through each of them just so you can get an idea of what it's doing. So starting with the hall here. And that was me turning up the decay just right at the end there as well, which was only halfway, if you would believe that. So if you really want to get into your like crazy sort of ambient guitar, or just like the biggest like hall that you've ever played in your life, then that's a great option to do that. And I think I would find myself maybe kind of reverting to that occasionally. But one of the really handy things is, like, when it comes to sort of effects units and whatnot, is you can kind of get a bit bonkers when you start sort of messing with things and you're like, oh my god, I don't have a sound that I can actually use. You can revert it back to its just kind of factory settings as well. Just there's a little reverting button just back at the top there, which super handy. Especially, I wish that actually came on pedals, because the amount of time I've been caught out by that. Now, another option that I think is absolutely fantastic with the Transacoustic, I think this is going to come in really handy for anybody who's maybe using this as a performance guitar, particularly with the looping function, is that on the looper tab of the app here, you've got 10 banks that you can store kind of predetermined loops in there that you've already banked in it. Now, where I see that coming in particularly handy is if you are performing, you'll know yourself if you've done any looping or whatever, that that kind of anxiety that comes when you maybe have not got it absolutely perfect and you need to apologize to your audience while they patiently wait for you to kind of put your drums in or something like that. You can prep, a set, you can prep a gig with 10 of these banks that could be like just the initial building blocks of your loop. You don't need to completely do it all. But then if you want to as well, I guess that just makes your life easy, but super great feature that is included in this. And then the last few things, which I think are quite important just to sort of touch on as well. You've got obviously the preference tab in here where you can change the input gain, you can change the tuner reference if you really want to. if you want to be playing anything that's obviously 442 hertz or something like that. And you also get your battery level on there as well, which is super handy. There's just a lot of like real nice sort of quality of life features in this guitar, and that's one of the things that I've felt with the new iteration of this Transacoustic, is the fact that the first one was so popular, so many guitarists were so excited about it, and all the changes that Yamaha have done for this new model, they've really listened to the players, and they've really like just, they've not added anything that hasn't been helpful and anything that hasn't been creative and whatnot. It's just, I'm finding all the new additions, you know, one is not any better than the other. They're all up to that caliber, which I just think is absolutely fantastic. Now, I've not went too heavy into the specs of this guitar, other than obviously the all-solid construction and some of the finer details on it as well, because I actually think that, you know, if you want to go and have a read of those, all the links for the products will be just in our description, where you can check out all of those additional features. But the main takeaway for me, and this is again kind of relating back to when I spent some time in this store, was, you know, there's a ton of guitars that you can go, okay, that's an all solid construction, that's got an ebony fingerboard, that has got this, that has got that on it, and you know, there's only a certain few that really stand out in terms of just what they're presenting, and I definitely think the Transacoustic stands in a sort of class of its own for that, purely just for the fact that, as I mentioned right at the start, you would turn on those effects, you would strum it for somebody, and just immediately just the eyes get wide, you know, and there's just limitless possibilities for creativity with that, which the fact that they do keep developing these guitars just shows how much like players are really enjoying them. And I mean, certainly for me, whether it be, you know, playing a gig or anything, to have those effects there, whether I was just sitting on the couch, just sort of playing away and just strumming away on a sort of a lazy Sunday or something, there's everything in this guitar can be used, but then you don't need to use them as well, just for like a sick sounding acoustic guitar. And anybody who, you know, is a fan of like the FG series or the F series from Yamaha, where some of those all solid constructions are turning up, then you're immediately going to get on well with this, as well as being limitlessly inspired by the options that are put into it. But yeah, that's about as much as I wanted to cover, and I'm going to mess around with the looping and some of the effects a little bit more here as well. But thanks for checking out the video of the brand new Transacoustic. I've been Keiran, and this has just been a very quick look at some of the new iterations in it. Have a great day.